Good evening and welcome to tonight's council meeting for Tuesday, October 21st. I would ask everybody silence their electronics. We'll do the same. Start the meeting with our land acknowledgement. As we gather here today, let us be reminded that the community in which we live, work, and play is situated on traditional, unceded Algonquin First Nation territory. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Anishinaabe people and express our respect and support for their rich history and culture. Can I get a call to order, please?
All members of council are present.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Recommended motion is that the agenda be approved as presented. Could I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Comley, seconded by Councillor Kavanaugh. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest of general nature thereof can be made now or at any point throughout the meeting by notifying clerk. Item number 5 is the approval of minutes. Could I get the recommended motion, please?
That the council minutes dated October 7th, 2025 be accepted as presented.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Atkinson, second by Councillor Sakaspina. Any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Item number 6 is our consent report. Could I get the recommended motion, please?
That council received the consent report dated October 21st, 2025.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Comley, second by Deputy Mayor Tennant. Discussion on the consent report. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Moves us on to bylaws, of which we have 4. First bylaw is an easement agreement with Hydro. Recommended motion, please.
That bylaw 78-2025 to enter into an easement agreement with Hydro One for the North Public Works Yard be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Hinton, seconded by Deputy Mayor Tennant. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Item number 2 is an agreement with Provincial Paving. Recommended motion, please.
That bylaw 79-2025 to enter into an agreement with Provincial Paving for 2025 recreation capital projects be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Thank you. Mover. Councillor Conley, seconded by Councillor Hinton. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Bylaw number 3 is a tree trimming agreement with Hydro One. Recommended motion, please.
That bylaw 80-2025 to enter into a tree trimming agreement with Hydro One for the North Public Works Yard be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Sakaspina and seconded by Councillor Atkinson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor and opposed? And that is carried. Last bylaw is confirmation of sale of 41 Row. Recommended motion, please.
That bylaw 81-2025 to confirm the sale of 41 Rowe Street to Forlorn River Holdings, Inc. be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
And moved by Councillor Hinton, seconded by Councillor Kavanaugh. Any discussion on that item? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? And that is carried, and we are done with bylaws. Moves us along to announcements. We have no official announcements, but we generally have a few from council. Councillor Kavanaugh.
Thank you. Just a couple of things coming up in the community. October 25th is Race Around the Place from 9 to 12 throughout downtown Carleton Place. This is a 5, 10, and K and half marathon for those that are so inclined. Otherwise, be a cheerleader. October 25th and 26th, the Carleton Place and Beckwith Museum is hosting cemetery tours 1 to 2:30, so you can reach out to them for information on getting tickets to that. And of course, coming up on October 31st is Halloween. And aside from our general trick-or-treating, there's a number of different events going on around town. 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. There'll be trick-or-treating throughout downtown Carleton Place for the littles, the under school age ones. From 3 to 6 p.m. There'll be trunk or treat at Market Square that's hosted by Turpan Kia and the town of Carleton Place. 6 p.m. Dark and Deadly Cafe is having a little trick or treat thing there. And then of course we hope to see all the children out trick or treating. So be mindful that there'll be little ghosts and goblins roaming the streets and drive carefully. And then of course on November 1st is the annual Women's Rotary Fair at the arena.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanaugh. Detailed as always. Nothing else. Oh, Councillor Conley.
I just want to give a little shout out to our business community who were recognized last week at the Chamber of Commerce Business Awards. We had a really good representation of businesses from across the community. Black Tartan took home the big prize of Business of the Year, but there was lots of representation there. So good job to our business community.
Here, and lots of new businesses that are taking part in the chamber, seeing the benefits of being part of the chamber and getting out and supporting each other, which was terrific. Also, we now have Mississippi Mills as part of the chamber, so a few new businesses that way. They won a couple of awards too, so I give a small golf clap to Mississippi Mills and all the great businesses over there. Thank you, Councillor Conley, for bringing that up. Anything else? So I will just quickly on my front, today, as part of my job as warden, I work with the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, and we had a parliamentary advocacy day today where we had the opportunity to sit with members of the current government and members of the opposition, kind of trying to promote Eastern Ontario specifically, but also every chance I get, I'm trying to promote Carleton Place and building relationships that may help us in the future. Had some very, very good conversations and spoke to the CAO just a few minutes ago, hoping that one or two of those will help us bear some fruit on some things that we have in the fire. My time as warden is coming to an end. That's probably the last thing I will do with the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, unless I am able to run again at some point in the future. Great organization that does a lot of work and advocacy on behalf of all of Eastern Ontario. So, but a good day today down on Parliament Hill. So with that, seeing no other announcements, I will move along to the confirmatory bylaw. Could I get the recommended motion, please?
That bylaw 82-2025, confirmation of council proceedings for October 21st, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Thank you. Could I get a mover, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Tennant, seconded by Councillor Hinton. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried, which moves us quickly to adjournment. And we have the recommended motion that the meeting be adjourned at 6:09. Could I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Atkinson, seconded by Councillor Kavanaugh. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. We are adjourned and moves us along to Committee of the Whole, hosted by Councillor Hinton.
Thank you, Mayor Randall. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole for October 21st. I'll now call the Committee of the Whole meeting to order at 6:10 p.m. Approval of agenda. The suggested motion is that the agenda be accepted as presented. Can I get a mover and a seconder on that? Councillor Atkinson and Councillor Conley. Sorry.
Actually, Mr. Chair, we have a couple of amendments to the agenda. So the motion should actually read that the agenda be accepted as amended with the addition to the 2026 council calendar motion to include an amendment to the procedural bylaw 104/2023 and an addition of a closed session item on proposed sale of land.
Thank you, Diane. Do the mover and seconder have any issues with that? No. Thank you. Any discussions on the agenda? See none. All in favor? And that motion is passed. Declaration of pecuniary conflict of interest and general nature thereof. You're reminded declarations may be made now or at any time. The matter is considered on the agenda. Is there any declarations or pecuniary interest this evening? See none. Perfect. We're on to the minutes. The suggested motion is the Committee of the Whole minutes dated October 7th and October 14th, 2025 be accepted as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder on that? Councillor Sekaspina, seconded by Councillor Kavanaugh. Any discussion on that? See none, all in favor? And that is passed. We have a few delegation presentations this evening. We'll start the evening off with Lennox Smith, CBO, on our building department fee changes. It's a statutory public meeting.
Good evening. The purpose of this meeting is through the code and the act requires that we have a mandatory public meeting. This is for any public members that would like to ask any questions about the fees and to take any opportunity to make any requests to council regarding the fees. So at this time, I will put to the floor if there's anybody from the public that would like to speak.
And is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak on the matter for building department fee changes? See none. Thank you very much, Lennox. Next, we have Nikki Dwyer, Director of Development Services, on development permit bylaw amendments, again on strategic properties. And again, this is a statutory public meeting. Nikki?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just preparing to share my screen and give a very brief overview of this amendment to the town's development permit bylaw. So first and foremost, I want to make clear that this is actually an amendment that we are processing in relation to the previous development permit bylaw. That is still the effective bylaw in place today. And it pertains to the strategic properties in town. The purpose of the open house is to gather information from members of the public so that council is aware. Any resident who's looking to receive information about this proposal should contact the planning department. So the purpose in effect is really to add and remove permitted uses from all 5 of the strategic properties. We are amending site-specific provisions to reflect the amended official plan policies, which were done through OPA 08, and we're creating site-specific performance standards for the strategic properties. In particular, we're looking at 5 sites identified on the map. Most particularly, I draw your attention to sites 1, 2, and 5 being DRS, the Wool Growers site, and Braden Mill. These are our undeveloped strategic properties. MacArthur Island and Finley Foundry have already been subject to development. On Emily Street in particular, we're looking at integrating in medium and high density residential uses, recognizing a 5% minimum for non-residential use, encouraging the restoration and preservation of the stone mill building, encouraging lot creation through new streets, buffering to adjacent low density uses, and encouraging low density uses on those new streets where and when they become appropriate through development applications. On the Wool Growers site, we're looking at, again, encouraging the restoration of the existing stone buildings on site, encouraging lot creation through new street development, restricting redevelopment to existing buildings to commercial uses, and integrating in residential uses through apartments, stacked towns, and street fronting towns, again, on an as per basis once an application is filed. On MacArthur Island, at this time, we have no specific changes to this property because it has already been subject to a Class 3 development permit. Similarly, on Finley Foundry, there's an existing approval, and as such, we're not bringing forward any performance standard changes at this time. As it pertains to Braden Mill, again, we're looking at residential uses in a mixed use environment consistent with the language in the OP, commercial uses between 5 and 30% of the net floor area of those buildings, and encouraging the restoration and redevelopment of the existing building on the site. With that, we're happy to provide more information as the public requests if there are any specific questions. But provided we don't have anything outstanding that's yet to be resolved, we'll bring this forward for a staff report at the next meeting of council.
Thank you, Nikki. And again, this is a statutory public meeting. Is there anybody present from the residents that would like to speak on the matter of the development permit bylaw amendments for the strategic properties? See none. Thank you, Nikki. And we're on to our third delegation again. Our third statutory public meeting of the evening. It's again by Nikki Dwyer, Director of Development Services, concerning 254 Lake Avenue West condominiums. Nikki?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm actually going to turn over the bulk of this public meeting to the agent who's with us tonight. His name is Eric Bays. He's representing the owner from Stantec, and Eric has prepared a presentation. For council's benefit, though, and the benefit of those watching live on Zoom, I do want to clarify that this is a public meeting under the official plan, not under the Planning Act anymore. Council will recall that as it pertains to subdivision applications, the Planning Act no longer requires us to engage in public meetings or discussions with residents, but council has elected to do so within their own local policy, and that's why we're here having this meeting tonight. So, Eric, oh, sure. We'll just do a quick chair shuffle, unless there's a question.
Deputy Mayor Tennant?
Is it technically still called a statutory public meeting?
That's an excellent question. I'd say it's a required public meeting. I don't know if we can call it a statutory. Yeah, it's our local applicable law, but I don't think technically it's a statutory public meeting because it doesn't come from statute. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And good evening. As Nikki mentioned, my name is Eric Bays. I'm a planner with Stantec, and I'm here on behalf of the client to step through what is the proposal for this site and try and ensure that I'm available to answer any questions that might come from committee as well. So the subject property is located at the corner of Lake Avenue West and Mississippi Road, the southwest corner to be specific. It's a fairly large site as parcels within the town go. There's currently a detached dwelling that's on the site. It was previously a bed and breakfast. It hasn't operated like that for several years now, but the land to the west of it that's basically just a maintained lawn right now. It's also part of that parcel, and it's remained vacant for an extended period of time. And the client purchased this land several years ago with the intent of trying to find if there's other uses that could be included onto the parcel. Just a bit of context for what we're dealing with from a land use planning, the policy framework. So the county's official plan, unsurprisingly, designates it along with much of the town as settlement area, and it allows for a wide range of uses at different densities as well. So it doesn't really provide that much guidance. In turn, the official plan of the town designates it as residential district, and there's a bit more detail about what the town expects to develop on this site. So it promotes in a sustainable, efficient, and a diverse residential neighborhood. It permits a diverse range of housing types and densities, and residential uses of all density types are generally permitted in the residential district. And then just finally, in terms of the development permit bylaw, is also within the residential district designation, and it similarly or consistently permits a range of dwelling types ranging from low density detached dwellings or single dwellings to apartment buildings in particular circumstances as well. I've got two images here, one right above the other. I've tried to line them up so that they match. So the proposal is to break the property down into 7 different parcels. The intent is to have detached dwellings to the east and to the west, and then that transition up to, I'll call them higher intensity, that I wouldn't consider them high density buildings in the center. So we've got blocks 1 and 7, that's furthest to the left and furthest to the right, proposed for detached dwellings. Block 6, the second one in from the intersection on the right-hand side would be a semi-detached dwelling split vertically through the middle as 2 units. And then the core of the site is 4 fourplexes that would have rear yard parking to allow the buildings to front up to the street and create that street presence, as opposed to having parking in your front yards. And then, so this is the overall concept. The component that I'm going to speak to 2 other blocks that are proposed here. One is block 8. That's at the top right corner. That's a site triangle. When the subdivision or when the streets were laid out, originally there were no site triangles that were put forward. So that was one of the requests of the town. The final is block 9, and that runs across. It's easier to see in the bottom image here. The area that is not colored, that runs parallel along the front yards and then the exterior side yard. And Ms. Dwyer, if you could switch to the next, that'll explain what this is. So one of the challenges with this site is that there's no sanitary service in the street. There's a force main that runs from Mississippi Shores that was installed by Kavanagh several years ago, but it's a pressurized pipe. It goes from a lift station at the corner of Lake Avenue and O'Donovan, and it pushes under pressure effluent until it gets to a gravity point where it then drains naturally by gravity to the sewage treatment plant. So we can't access that because it's pressurized. There's a couple different options that probably could be used. Those were explored by the engineers on the file, which were Aegis. The recommendation that was put forward by them was to have a private sewer pipe that runs through the front of the front yards and runs to a private lift station that's located at the corner of Mississippi and Lyndhurst on the west side. It's a little bit hard to see in this image, but there is a circle, thank you, that you can see that it drains across the north and then it drains downwards or south on the right-hand side of the image. And then it's pumped and it's lifted up. There is a force main that then runs from there to Lyndhurst, and where it connects in with an existing manhole, and it will drain by gravity to the existing system. As I mentioned before, so there's 2 applications in front of us today. One is a draft plan of subdivision, and this is to subdivide the parcel into these 9 blocks that I just outlined. So it creates the private blocks that would be individual blocks for a development, as well as the block that will form the common element condo that will contain that sanitary pipe. And if you could go on to the next one, thank you. And the second one is this common elements condo. So as we mentioned, it's a private sanitary pipe. Staff have been clear that because of the strategy that would be used to service this site, the town does not wish to assume the operating and the life cycle costs for that. And really what that means is that this will need to be privately held into the future, but there needs to be some type of framework put in place to make sure that all these new parcels, all of the benefiting landowners are fairly maintaining or are fairly paying into and have equitable decision-making power related to this, to make sure that we don't have situations that can come up in less organized shared facilities where you have conflicts that can arise when things get to the end of their life cycle, when things go wrong, and inevitably, as council may have experienced, people try to come to the town or to their local government as some sort of an arbitrator or as somebody who might be able to assume that infrastructure. So what this common element condo does is the orange parcels 1 through 7, or blocks 1 through 7 would be freehold parcels. When you purchase them, the parcels themselves are not part of a condo, but they are tied via title to block 8, which is, so they are parcels of tied land to the common element condo itself. The common element condo in turn, is the owner of the sanitary pipe. The lift station has the ability to also maintain through an easement with the city, the force main that runs across Mississippi Mills to Lyndhurst. And that's the framework that would be established. So there would be a condominium corporation, there would be condominium fees that would be associated with all of the different maintenance, upkeep, and ultimately life cycle costs of those pipes and that pump. And next slide, please. There's been a number of other studies that were submitted as part of these two concurrent applications. There was archaeological assessment stage 1 and 2. There wasn't any recommendation for any further investigation. It has been cleared and added to the provincial registry. There was a traffic brief, and based on the existing conditions on Lake Avenue and at the intersection of Lake Avenue and Mississippi Road, there weren't any anticipated changes to the level of service. It still should operate at level of service A at the end of the full build out of this project. There was a planning rationale where we had a much more rambling or extensive explanation of what I just talked about today, so I won't go into that. We had the tree preservation plan, which we did identify a butternut located at the south side of the property, right on the fence line against the school board's racetrack parcel. So there's permitting there's investigation, and there's permitting that will need to be done to make sure that that's either appropriately compensated for or protected through the construction process. And then finally, there's the servicing stormwater report, of which I showed a portion of one of the plans, but there is extensive discussion about how water services will work, how stormwater will generally be managed as well. And at that, I'm finished my presentation. Thank you for your time, and happy to answer any questions I can.
Thank you, Eric. As this is a public meeting, again, is there anybody in attendance who would like to speak on the 254 Lake Avenue West condominiums at this time? Sure. I would ask that you come forward, present your name. Please stay on topic that has been presented. Yeah, we need the microphone.
Can you hear me?
No. And if you could please keep it to 5 minutes, please. Thank you.
My name is Frank Mills. I've lived in Carlton Place since 1960. And I live currently within 100 meters of this site. My neighbor and myself, Rick Roberts, did respond in writing to requests for input. And I think the main issue in this property, developing it the way you scripted it, is parking. You're allowing 5 places for each of the 4 plexes, right? That's 1 1/4 for each property. That is extremely low with regard to provincial standards. And there's a lot of traffic in that area. And there's events that take place on the high school field that exacerbate that situation when they occur. I just don't think that this plan is going to be very comfortable for the people that live in that area because of this lack of parking. Also, a subsequent issue to that is a snow removal from the properties at the back. You must understand that there's only one street or driveway out to the Lake Avenue. And I don't know what you're going to do with the snow if we get a big snowstorm. So these are the issues, Mr. Chairman, that I wanted to bring forward. I don't propose any solutions or implementations, but I have a concern. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mills. Is there any other comments on the 254 Lake Avenue West condominiums? I see none. Thank you very much for the presentation, Eric. And our last delegation of the evening is Cardinal Place Environmental Advisory Committee. And we will have the committee chair, Colin McDuff, and Barb Purdy, who is a board member on that, to present. Just as a reminder, Colin, if you can keep it to 10 minutes, that'd be great. Once we get close to that point, I'll give you a little indication.
Yeah, you just press the arrow key.
Perfect. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for having us in tonight. My name is, for those of you who don't know me, Colin McDuff, and I'm the chair of the Environmental Advisory Committee, and Barb Purdy is our deputy chair. So we're here tonight to present a proposal on event greening. And the concept is pretty simple. We want to establish best practices for events throughout the town of Carleton Place, both town-sponsored and non-town sponsored events. And the idea, of course, is to reduce landfill costs, save some money for the town in the long run, and also achieve the town's climate goals, which would also tie in with the Lanark counties as well. A big challenge, of course, is the fact that we have more and more people moving here. We have more events, which is great. It's fantastic. But that's also a challenge in terms of what do we do with recycling and composting. So the idea, of course, is we want to have these events. They're great, but we also want to be able to improve recycling and composting and reduce the waste that goes to landfill, but also to present a better image of greener image of Carleton Place and establish something that all organizations will be able to use. I'm going to pass over to Barb now.
Good evening, everyone. The reality, actually, it is Happy Waste Reduction Week, by the way. How timely. By creating a best practices guide, we can promote alternative green approaches to traditional event planning and encourage all organizers to view events through a climate-focused lens and help support good habits towards recycling and waste reduction to the community at large. By having the town adopt a best practice, it is ensured that all events will consistently incorporate these elements and have access to some tools and resources to help them. Bottom line is that this could be a very helpful component as well in the town's eventual and much needed climate action plan. Okay, can we go to the next screen? Yeah. Go. Nope, go back. Local success. So a local success story, if you can go back to the photo, please. Thanks. In 2022, I was at Stewart Park Festival, and it was clear that people needed direction as there was so much garbage with so very little sorting. I was invited to initiate a discussion and a proposal with CNL afterwards to deal with the Stewart Park Festival's waste issue. Today, their greening initiative is proudly proclaimed on their website. It has 20,000 attendees over 3 days in 2024. When we first started the Stewart Park Festival recycling team, there were garbage cans everywhere over the site. Last year, there was a huge uptick in the amount and volume that was collected because the garbage cans were removed. So any waste, any recycling, any composting was all diverted, and 487.2 pounds of compost diverted to the Perth compost facility, 120 pounds of recycling diverted from landfill. it's imperative that there's assistance with this. People have to learn exactly how to recycle. When you have events, there are people from outside of the area as well, and they may not be aware of what your current practices are in your community. Of course, that is changing now with the circular materials taking over Ontario, but still best practices are needed. Okay. The solution. Develop a best practices for green events publishment on the town website and be included with every event request submission. Survey all event providers to help understand their unique challenges for their event and offer solutions. Hire a student to promote greening solution presentations to Chamber of Commerce, BIA, service, and community groups. Build a portable water dispenser with Hackberry Men's Shed and promote free OCWA dispenser for larger events. Create an event waste station kit like what is pictured for CNL Stewart Park model. Establish an event greening grant, $100 to $150 per event, possibly through the enrichment grant program. Provide template letter for community groups requesting compostable serviceware from vendors with vetted supplier list. And rental of storage space for equipment is required. This is something that including Earthfest has an issue with right now. Not unlike Stewart Park, creation of a green ambassador team, volunteer force for recycling, compost station at events to include outreach to high schools. The budget. So as we have line items here, this is an estimated cost that would enable us to create the toolkits required to be able to service and assist larger and smaller and medium-sized events in the town. The basis of this list is from today's market value and of course does not factor any tariffs.
Okay, so just a lot of stuff just in terms of the budget there's a number of items on there, but the idea is obviously the startup costs are going to be the main factor for us because you know, purchasing a tent, for example, that we can use to set up a waste station, that's not something we're going to be looking at an annual budget kind of thing. So the startup costs are going to be, the operating costs are going to be significantly less once we get through that sort of stuff. And significant, I should mention also in terms of budget, part of that component is us providing money out of our funds to help support that and get it going. And the main issue and the challenge maybe for some may be obvious is we would ideally get a student hired, you know, through different grants that are available through the community to hire and help support us in this endeavor. But worst case scenario, we're still prepared. There is a subcommittee that we're going to hopefully set up. We will be training people. The plan is to train people on staff here, training people at the various community organizations so that everyone can be self-sufficient, but we're still there to support them long-term. So our plan going forward right now is to have these year one establish, okay, how much are we actually spending, you know, in terms of tonnage fees and so on that's going out, particularly for some of these larger events such as Canada Day and Summerfest. Create the best practices with the help of this subcommittee that we hope to form. Create a volunteer list and implement training. We've even talked to some people who are not part of our committee but are interested in volunteering to help out with this. We have obviously supports at the local and provincial level to help with this. And then of course we'll be working in conjunction with other associations such as the Chamber and the BIA. And then we're going to ideally put it into practice next May at Earthfest, try it out, pilot it out, see how it goes before moving forward to other events. Then year two, at that stage, we'll take what we've learned from that and then develop it for town-sponsored events At this point, we're hoping to liaison on a regular basis with town staff. And then, of course, work with non-town sponsored organizations such as the Ukrainian Fest. And talk to them, work with them, establish contacts with them, and find out ways we can support them and help them implement best practices. And then our goal for year 3 would be to have this in place and ready to roll for non-town sponsored events such as Ukraine Fest that I just mentioned, so that we're there to support them all throughout the process. And the idea is not to hammer anything on anybody. The idea is we want to be able to go in and say, hey, here's a list, here's a package of things to help you out. Here's why we think it's a good thing. And here's how we can help you. Because we're not trying to burden anybody with this particular thing. We're trying to, as we mentioned earlier, reduce landfill costs, reduce waste, and achieve the goals for the climate plan. That's really our long-term goal, and establish these good community relations with all the organizations that are having all these fantastic things going on. So that is why we would like to be able to. We need the money to start up, and we're hoping long-term that the cost of will come significantly down, obviously, because we have the equipment in place, and it will, in the long term, become self-supporting once people are trained up and we have those volunteers in place. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Colin Barr. I'll open it up for discussions or questions from anybody at council, if there's any at this time. Councillor Sakaspina.
Jessica, I am sorry to put you on the spot, but how much recycling do we do for events now?
Thank you. Hi, through the chair. Part of our plan for setup is that we include garbage and recycling cans for all of our events. Depending on the size of the event, we add more garbage and recycling, or we don't, kind of depending on the size of the event space-wise and the estimated attendance. So that is currently our practice. And coupled with that is the water refill stations that we have at Canada Day and all of the bigger events, as well as at Carlton Junction, there already is one there. And then Summerfest obviously provides their own. So that is our current measures.
Okay.
Councillor Sakaspina, I just wanted to follow up with, we do know that there's a big issue with contamination with recycling. So a lot of stuff people are, going to recycle, they throw it in, but it's contaminated, and the end result is a lot of that stuff just gets put in the garbage. So part of the idea is, Jessica's doing a great job, and we already know that. But if we can create a waste station where part of the idea is to clean those goods that are coming in before they go in recycling, so therefore they actually do get recycled and don't end up being thrown out. So that's part of it. We said about support, because things are already going on, but we want to try to see how we can improve it, Thank you.
Okay, no way to condone it. I just wanted people to know on the outside how much recycling we did now, so we can add on to that. Thanks.
Councillor Atkinson.
Yeah, more good advice from the Environmental Advisory Committee. I like the idea of having almost like a green concierge or a waste management concierge at events, much like Stewart Park, where it's you're actually helping people learn what to do with the waste, and I think this would be I think it's a good project to propose. It allows us to further green our events. But this would be something that would be good to integrate in with the events, because most events have to provide us with a waste management plan anyways, am I right? And integrating this into the waste management plan, where consult the EAC and include this with your events, I think would be an excellent addition to the festivals in town.
Thank you, Jeff. If I may, one of the things in the budget was a weigh scale. So we would definitely be measuring exactly what we receive in the way of, recyclables or compost, as an example, to have a sense of what diversion rates we're affecting.
Ideally, you can divert it all.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Thank you. Yeah, just as a follow-up to, and I know that the Good Compost team was at Summerfest and Pumpkin Fest as well, and those organizers usually reach out to them as well to be included. As a first step as an advisory committee, would be to not attend the events and start that education piece first while because as these events, they have tents and tables and signage, and I just see the first step being, is the advisory committee present at the events, doing that public education within the event itself before having to buy materials to set up all these events have their own tents, have their own tables, have access to budgets for signage and stuff. Is it possible to, as a first step, to just work with those within those events and do that and be on site and start that education in that capacity?
Thank you, Councillor Cavan. I think that's a fair question. The idea, and I'll let Barb jump in here if I'm incorrect here, but the idea is we want to establish the best practices, let people know what they are, and meet with the people in these committees, because everybody knows all of these different community events, festivals, whatever, they're a lot of work. And we don't want to create a burden for anybody. We want to establish the relationships first, talk about what we're planning to do, say how we can assist you. And the idea of, we're just talking one tent here to create a way station that will be manned. So we want to get these ambassadors in place that will be there, the climate concierge, maybe that's not the appropriate word, I guess, for CNL, but anyways, climate ambassadors, if you will, that will be there to support those different events. And eventually, yeah, they'll get to a point where they can do it on their own, absolutely. But we need to meet with them first and say, hey, what do you think? And if we're ready to go sooner, we're ready to go sooner. We just kind of want to make sure that we do things right and that we have a good understanding of the metrics of where we're at in terms of saving, particularly like tonnage fees for the town. And then make sure it's a success overall.
If I might as well add to that. The other thing is you remember that these are volunteers that are doing this. So making it as easy as possible for this to happen is one of the key things. Having to, to get a tent and gather all the things every time is not something that I think anybody wants to do. It needs to be a kit. It needs to be prepared, ready to go. And if somebody wants to use it, they can use it. That is, that is the eventual goal, is that they have access to this as a resource. The other thing is that we have many different sizes of events. We have small business events. We have events at the town hall. We have, service clubs doing small events. Businesses all the time do small events. It's not just about large events. It's also about the small ones. And a lot of small ones equal a lot of garbage.
Follow-up, Councillor Kavanaugh.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I'm completely supportive. A lot of our large events are run by volunteers. I can attest to, putting in some long hours myself. So I can appreciate it. I was just merely saying that I'm a big fan of starting where we're at so that we can build capacity. And as an advisory committee, having just best practices listed out and starting to just disseminate that information to the organizations as a starting point, and then being on site where you have capacity to further the education of the public, I just think is a good first step and a good, easy place to start, and grow from there. That's all I was suggesting.
Yeah, that was part of our present best practice and green event support, the chamber, BIA, local, and any other industry organization. So that's where we start establishing, here's what we've got for you, give them the information, and then tell how we can support them.
Councillor Secaspino.
So I have a question for CPAC. You mentioned Just Coast, the compost company. Carlton Place hasn't been as welcoming as Elmont has. And if you could tell the people of Carlton Place why they should do Just Good Compost, what would you tell them?
Okay, so 10% of the greenhouse gas that is emitted is from not composting. That's number one. Number two, you're reducing the amount of waste, so it's in the town's benefit to do that. The other thing is that you're actually getting really, really good compost at the end of it to use for your own garden. So there's multiple, and then when it's you know, the other thing is that you're helping this community organization by developing jobs for people who are marginalized. So I mean, it's a win-win-win-win-win-win all around.
Any other questions or discussion on this matter? See none. Thank you very much for the presentation this evening. And we will get on to reports, which we have 9 of this evening. Go grab some popcorn, maybe a drink. Be here for a little bit. We will start off with our 2026 draft budget binder, communication 136103. We'll have a presentation from Teresa McConkey, our treasurer, on that. Teresa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I've mentioned before, there is new legislation this year on how we do our budget. There's been a full report based on that legislation. So tonight I'm just announcing that our draft budget has been communicated to council. And tomorrow we will post a summary and a list of capital projects on our website on the finance page. And I just want to talk about the November 13th full day council meeting where managers will present their detailed budgets to council. And it's streamed live on Zoom, so you're welcome to attend that way. You're also welcome to attend in person if you wish. And then we're taking comments on the budget anytime from now until November 18th, so that we can provide those comments to council for their second budget deliberation day, which is November 20th. And again, you can attend online or in person if you wish. And that's really all I want.
Thanks, Teresa. Before I read the motion, is there any questions or discussions? Deputy Mayor Tennant.
So I think this is going to be my 7th, and not a single one, despite the invites, has anybody ever shown up. Sat for the entire thing, except for people required.
Any other question? Any other questions or discussion on this matter this evening? I see none. Happy reading. I just noticed the binders seem to get thicker every single year. Thank you for that.
It's just what you ask for.
I will read the motion. The council received the treasurer's report dated October 21st, 2025, and the mayor's 2026 draft budget binder as information. Can I get a mover and seconder on that, please? Moved by Councillor Atkinson, seconded by Councillor Kavanaugh. All in favor? Opposed? See none, and that motion is carried. Thank you. Teresa's still up. We have elected officials remuneration policy update, communication 136104. It's all yours, Teresa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as part of the elected officials remuneration policy, we committed to do a market review of council, mayor, deputy, and council honorariums, usually in the last year of the term of council. However, I was fortunate enough to be in a group where somebody gathered all of this information this year. So I thought I'd bring it forward now while I had that. And so you'll see there's quite a few comparators. I took the ones that were within 25% higher of our population or lower to calculate kind of what the averages and averages were. Now, I guess we've offered council, 3 recommendations, and we're proposing that option 1, which is to increase honorariums to the 60th percentile, be approved and would become effective November 1st or November 15th. 17th, you're right, 2026, when the new term of council starts.
Thank you, Teresa. Before I read the motion, I will, because there's 3 different options, I will open up for discussion or questions. Deputy Mayor Tennant.
Thank you. Obviously a little bit delicate to discuss. So one of the things I was going to recommend is that we defer this to the budget. Just because that's where we discuss the money. And I realize this is not exactly pertinent to next year so much as it is a long-term thing, but it's part of our budget discussions, I think, where we compare apples to apples. We have all the numbers in front of us. So I'd like to do that, but I'll let everybody obviously speak first. And one of the recommendations that I would make is another option for remuneration, which would be instead of a straight increase. I've had some discussions with other councillors, and I've heard that their committee work is starting to pile up. It's getting to be quite a drain on their time, and not all committees are the same, and it's not always, you know, a heavy file. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And I thought instead of a percentage increase, one of the ways we could look at this is perhaps piecemeal or piecework increases or payouts like per diems for anybody attending various committees. And that way, if you're going to put in extra work, you're going to get paid for the work you do. And if you don't put in the extra work, you don't get any more money. So I would like to look at some kind of example like that at the next budget. But anyways, that's enough for me, but I would move to defer if no one has a problem with that.
Any other discussions? Councillor Sakaspina?
I agree with you, Andrew. I absolutely do. I can't speak for anybody else, but I don't do this for the salary. But whatever you guys decide is fine with me. Thank you.
Councillor Atkinson?
Yeah, I concur. I think deferring this until after we've had our budget discussions is good. But I like the idea that the deputy mayors put forward of where if you put in the work, you earn the pay and a modest honorarium for attending meetings, not council meetings, but the committee meetings and the other meetings that you're required to do from time to time. I think would be perfectly fair compensation for the extra time that you put in.
Councillor Conley?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with these recommendations as well. Sometimes, the committee meetings do take a lot of extra energy, and this helps to compensate the people doing the extra work. And it's not the same for everyone, and this way it seems fair. So I like that recommendation.
Mayor Randall?
Thank you. I'll agree with everybody. I think it's also when we're looking at remuneration for council, kind of the time and place that we find ourselves in Carleton Place, in compared to it, like we have a long list of different municipalities of similar size, and different councils get paid different things. But Carleton Place, and I'm not saying that we're special, because we're, every municipality has their challenges. What's that? Yeah, for sure. I'm sure. But what we are is different than a lot of other municipalities our size. We're going through growth that other municipalities are not seeing, and because of that, we do put a ton of effort in, a ton of time. We update documents. We're constantly dealing with growth related topics. that just some other municipalities, and again, no disrespect because everybody has their own issues. But that other municipalities, again, just being at the EOWC today, like my fellow members of the 13 counties are pointing at Carleton Place in almost all the meetings. It's like, so we're going through this, but Carleton Place is either going through it way more, or we're on the opposite side of this and Carleton Place is having to do things differently because of the type of growth that we're seeing. So just, I agree with the deferral. I like the idea of the type of remuneration for committee meetings because there is a ton of time that is spent by all members of council because of the time and place we find ourselves in here in Carleton Place. Thank you. Sorry, and we're special. We're special. Everybody loves Carleton Place.
Thank you, Mayor Randall. Any other discussions or questions on this matter? Deputy Mayor Tennant?
If no one has anything else, then I'll move to defer to the budget. Or do you want to do after budget? Does anybody care? Let's say to budget for now, and we can defer it again if we want to. All right.
And that's seconded by Councillor Atkinson. Any discussions on the amended motion? See none. All in favor? Opposed? None. And that motion has carried. Thank you. Number 3, 2026 fees and charges, communication 136105. And Teresa, you are up again.
Last one, I promise. So every year prior to our budget deliberations, but kind of as our first step in drafting a 2026 budget, we ask managers to review all of the fees that they have in place and make sure that they're still valid and that whether they need to increase or go away. Various recommendations you'll find in this list. The only thing I wanted to talk about was there's one fee we're suggesting doesn't become effective January 1st, 2026 like the rest, and that is a charge for paper bills going forward. It's becoming quite common across municipalities and hydro and any other bills you get, even your bank statements, you're charged for paper copies. So we're suggesting that we do that, but make it effective a year following in 2027 so that we can advertise and make sure that people know what their options are before we start charging them. And the other piece is the last item on here. I've been asked to change the recommendation to removing the fee for credit cards, which is currently 2.4%, for recreation fees that are less than $1,000. And the reason we want to do this is to promote the use of our online portal, which the only way you can pay is by credit card, and promoting that and doing that is going to save staff time. It's going to create other savings. So that's why this recommendation is there. But we really don't want the people who are paying $30,000 a month for ice rentals to have us pay 3% on top of that. So that's why we're suggesting a maximum there.
Thank you, Teresa. Before I read the suggested motion, is there any discussions or questions for Teresa on this matter? Councillor Atkinson?
Yeah, I don't like the fee for paper bills. It's I think I know it's becoming more common, but it's also incredibly unfair to our older folks in town who just may not have internet access at all. My mother is one of those people. And she gets the bills, the extra charges for paper bills sent, and she's on the phone immediately, again, negotiating to have it taken away because they're basically forcing her to sign up for an internet plan just to save $3 on her phone bill or her hydro bill, and it adds up across all of the bills. So I would actually, I'm going to move that fee be struck entirely from we just don't move forward with that. Don't like it, don't like it, don't like it, won't have it. Councillor Comley.
Yeah, I totally understand the reason for the fee increases. I struggle with it every time we do it, and we do it year over year. Couple issues I have on this one is the way we do rounding ends up giving us a lot more money in the end. 3 or 4 years of this kind of rounding, and we are significantly higher than where we started because we're rounding to a quarter. In some sense, we're going up 24 cents to the nearest quarter. So that, I don't like how that much that puts the fees up. There's also 2 fees under council chambers that are stated at 3%, but they're actually 9% increases. They seem a little high. So I'd like to see those go down. The 108.50 should go down to 102.50, and the 72 should go down to 67 if we're actually doing the 3% increases on there. So I reluctantly am in agreement with doing fee increases, but I think we have to fix those 2 up for sure, and I question the rounding.
Could we just circle back to the motion that was made about removing because otherwise we're going to have too many things floating around. Councillor Atkinson made a motion that the paper bill fee be removed from the fees and charges. So we need to address that before we can move on to the other topics.
Thank you. So any discussions on Councillor Atkinson's amended motion?
We need to have a seconder before. Okay, that's okay.
Thank you. So that Councillor Atkinson's amended motion would be seconded by Deputy Mayor Tennant. Is there any discussions on that? Deputy Mayor Tennant.
Yeah, I agree, but for different reasons, actually. It's a government service. It's not a private service. When I opt out of paper billing for, my phone, my hydro, whatever, I can do without those private services that, people can't opt out of paying their taxes. So that's why I'd say that they should have all means available to them as part of that government service. So basically, until the CRA starts doing it, I think we keep doing it this way. But I understand the cost savings, I understand the nuisance of it. I understand that Canada Post is going through some changes, so we'll see how that goes. But I would say we keep doing it for a while longer yet.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Tennant. Teresa?
I don't disagree. We have really good uptake on e-billing. I think we're the best in the province, to be honest. With the conferences that we go to, we talk about it, and a lot of places are like 10% and we're 60%. So we're already doing a really good job. This would just help it further.
Mayor Randall.
Yeah, thank you. I think I agree with both Councillor Atkinson and Deputy Mayor Tennant for both reasons. To be honest with you, there's multiple reasons why we would do this, but I'm sympathetic to Councillor Atkinson's mom and the fees that she doesn't like to pay. But I would agree with Deputy Mayor Tennant. It's a service that we provide. They're taxed already for everything that we do here in town, including our staff's time, and I think that we continue to promote, like you said, the e-billing service, and there is a good uptake to it, and that we don't burden our whoever it's going to be that's going to be burdened by this, whether they be elderly, folks that just don't have internet access or whatnot. There's various groups that would be affected by this, even if it is a small amount of money. So I would be in favor of that as well.
Thank you, Mayor Randall. Any other discussions on the amended motion? I see none, so I will call that to a vote. All in favor of the amended motion? Opposed? See none. So that has carried. So now we will continue with.
So now you can discuss the main motion minus the paper fee.
Is there any discussion or questions on the main motion which at this point, I guess I should read, the council adopt the proposed comprehensive fees and changes and charges bylaw incorporating both proposed new rates and rates which are not being recommended to change in 2026, less what we just approved with the paper billing. Joanne Henderson.
Sorry, I just wanted to comment on the council chamber fees. The amount that was listed in the document was actually incorrect, and that's why there is a difference of
The original.
the current fee was incorrect, yeah. Yeah, sorry, apologize for that.
Mayor Randall.
I just wanted to comment on the credit card fee. I think that is actually, we'll get paid back that over time as people start paying everything online. I think that's a very smart thing to do. So 100% agree with that one. Thank you. And I will say, I don't think anybody is happy about having to increase costs. It is, again, everything, and I don't think everybody does understand that. Everything we do is paid for by taxes. Every little thing we purchase, every service we provide, staff, council, all of our buildings is all paid every year by taxes. We're not allowed to carry a debt of any kind. We have to balance our books at the end of every year. And so it's a necessary evil, and our costs increase. And so everybody's costs increase, and for as much as we don't want to increase it every year. So the rest of it I think is fine. I agree with the 0%.
Any other discussions? I do need a mover and seconder on this suggested motion.
Just to address Dave's other comments about rounding, do you want to talk about why you do that?
Thank you, through the chair. So we always round up to the nearest quarter because it's when you're presenting a rate to somebody, it's better to say, well, we find that, you know, it's $17.21 to rent the hall, whereas we could say it's $17.25. That's why we round it up. And also we didn't increase any of the fees in 2025. So these fees have not been increased since 2024.
Thank you. I will read the amended motion. The council adopt the proposed comprehensive fees and charges bylaw, less the $3 paper billing, incorporating both proposed new rates and rates which are not being recommended to change in 2026. There's no further discussion. Can I get a mover and seconder on that? Moved by Deputy Mayor Tennant, seconded by Councillor Comley. All in favor? Opposed? See none. Moving right along. Okay, Carlton Place and Beckwith Museum accessibility ramp. Communication 136106, and we have Ross Rankin, property and project manager. That's what you suggest. Okay, Ross, it's all yours.
Thank you, through the chair. Hopefully the information that's been provided is self-explanatory, but I'll just highlight a couple of different areas of it. In 2023, council approved a small capital expenditure to look at a ramp and an addition to the front of the museum. Unfortunately, when we did the design, or the concept design, brought it to accessibility committee. They liked it, they approved it. And then we started going down the road of seeing how we can actually do this before we started looking at getting funding for it. There's an issue with the hydro lines. There's something, I've been in this business for a long time, and it's something I just learned last year in 2024 when we looked at it. there's a distance requirement of how hydro lines can fall down if they snap. So it's within that distance. So the ramp cannot go at the front, whether we have a vestibule or whether we just build a ramp. So that's one thing I wanted to highlight. I did have a conversation with the president of the Historical Society, Robert Probert, today to talk about some of the things, some of his concerns or some of their concerns. And I think that we've addressed it. And what we have agreed to, which is option number 4, if that's something that we can put on the table once you go through them, Chair, is that we would look at the front entrance and we would look at the stairs and try to modify them to make them more accessible. Not that there would be a ramp, but that because of the risers, the levels are not equal and the landing is not where it should be up by the stairs. So that's something that we would offer.
Thank you, Ross. I will read option 4 since it's not in the agenda package, so everyone has it before we open it up for further discussion or questions. So option 4 would be staff investigate the cost of replacing the current front entrance stairs to provide stairs with a lower riser steps and landing level with the entrance doors, and investigate the parking lot entrance area for improvements. This be included in the 2026 budget submission to be presented to Committee of the Whole on November 13th for Council's consideration. That is the motion. And if I can get a mover and seconder on that before we open it up for discussion. Moved by Councillor Sakaspina, seconded by Mayor Randall. Deputy Tenant, you have comments on this?
Yeah, so there was a bit of back and forth today. And it seems like, I've got an email from Rob Probert saying that this is something they would probably support, that we move forward with. I went over to measure those steps today, and a couple of them are close to 9 inches. And I think, like, I'm the chair of the accessibility committee, and we can help more people by improving those stairs, even though we can't build a ramp, because that, for somebody with a mobility issue, going up a 9-inch riser is just going to be terrible on their knees and their hips, and it would be very, very difficult. So if we can make some sort of improvement there, at least to capture a lot more people and help them out, and we can start looking at solutions up the other entrances or something else, I think that would go a long way. And I know they've been waiting a long time, so I would support this.
Councillor Sakaspina.
This has kind of gone on long enough. I have a mobility disability, and those stairs, if I get up to the 3rd stair, if I manage to get up to it, it's when you open the door and it opens out. It doesn't open in. My suggestion is what they have approved, but also the back area, the parking lot should be looked at, because that's the way I go in. They had a louder buzzer there. There would be no problem getting in and out of there. But something has to be done, because I get complaints every second week about these stairs. So thank you.
Any other discussions or questions at this time on the option 4? I see none, so I will call it to a vote. All in favor of option 4? Opposed? See none, and that has carried. Thank you. Thank you, Ross. We are on to report number 5, accessibility policies for multi-year accessibility plan, communication 136107, presented this evening by Stacy Blair, our clerk.
Okay, there are two, so this evening there are 2 updated accessibility policies being presented. They're required under the AOTA and the Integrated Accessibility Standards Regulation. These policies will replace the 2021 versions and form part of our multi-year accessibility plan, which is currently in development. The policy drafts were circulated to the Accessibility Advisory Committee and also to senior managers. The comments received have been integrated into the final documents, which will ensure that the policies reflect both community perspectives and operational concerns. The first policy is the Customer Service Accessibility Standards. This establishes a framework for providing goods, services, and facilities to persons with disabilities. It applies to all employees, volunteers, contractors, and agents. Its key elements include clear procedures for accommodating assistive devices, service animals, and support persons, mandatory staff training, formal feedback mechanism for accessibility concerns, and it emphasizes dignity, independence, integration, and equal opportunity. The second policy is the notice of emergency and temporary disruptions. It addresses both planned and emergency disruptions of accessible features. This covers pathways, ramps, parking, automatic doors, elevators, washrooms, and playground equipment. Its key elements include preventative maintenance integrated with monthly safety inspections, 48-hour advance notice for planned disruptions when possible, prompt response protocols for emergency disruptions, accessible communication standards, plain language, high contrast, and commitment to provide alternative arrangements during disruptions, and an annual review with the Accessibility Advisory Committee. These policies will ensure that the town is in compliance with AOTA, IASR, Ontario Human Rights Code, and the Design of Public Spaces standards. The financial implications are minimal. These can be implemented with existing operational budgets. It formalizes and enhances the town's current practices. The training can be incorporated into existing onboarding programs, and non-compliance, however, could result in provincial enforcement action and financial penalties. So the approval of these penalties will demonstrate the town's commitment to barrier-free access.
Thank you, Stacy. Is there any discussions or questions on this matter before I read the motion? Deputy Mayor Tennant.
Yeah, just wanted to, I was sort of really on this one. I really want to thank Stacy and all staff who had something to do with this, as well as the comments we got from the committee. They really are important, particularly for somebody who has a specific accessibility issue. Because sometimes it's so hard to think about those things when you don't have that issue. So those comments are really important. So it's working as it's supposed to. So I think that's great. So thank everybody.
Any other comments? Councillor Atkinson.
Yes, I just went through the refresher training for both of these as part of my day job. And it's not onerous at all. It's like 45 minutes of online education and a quick quiz. But in terms of the effectiveness and the difference that it makes from your perspective of providing service to people, it's I can't speak as positively about it as I wish I could. It's excellent. I wholeheartedly support this.
Any other comments or questions before I read the motion? I see none. I will read the suggested motion that council approve the Customer Service Accessibility Standards Policy and the Notice of Emergency and Temporary Disruptions Accessibility Standards Policy as detailed in the report by the clerk dated October 21st, 2025. Can I get a mover and seconder on that? Moved by Deputy Mayor Tennant, second by Councillor Kavanagh. All in favor? Opposed? See none. That motion is carried. Thank you. Thanks, Stacy. You're still with us. The 2026 Council and Committee Calendar, Communication 136108.
So usually this is a little more straightforward than this year. This schedule was developed in accordance with procedural bylaw, and the meetings generally follow our standard pattern, which is the second and fourth Tuesdays. Some key features are that the schedule was, as usual, coordinated with the Leonard County Council meetings to provide a meeting-free week for county representatives. There's no meetings in July, which is our normal practice. There's no meetings during March break. And the February 10th meeting will provide a balance in between the break between January and March. The election year adjustments, with 2026 being a municipal election year, the schedule reflects this transition. The last meeting of the current term is October 13th, which is 2 weeks before Election Day. Election Day is October 26th. Mark that down in your calendars. The inaugural meeting, as previously mentioned, is November 17th. So the first regular meeting of the new term will be December 1st. There will be a 2-week orientation period built in for any incoming council members. And the budget process will be deferred until early 2027 due to this transition. However, we also received a request that agendas be moved to Wednesdays instead of Thursdays to accommodate long weekends. And so that there was an amendment that I'm proposing, which is to amend section 2.4.6 of the procedural bylaw, which will change the agenda publication date from Thursdays to Wednesdays at 4 p.m. So staff might want to write that one down. It'll provide consistency year round, and additional review time particularly will be beneficial during holiday weekends. And this will actually both benefit staff and council to allow more time at both ends. So.
Thank you, Stacy, and thank you for the additional time that we may be granted. Is there any discussions or questions on the amended motion? I see none, so will read the amended motion. The council approved the 2026 Council Committee of the Whole calendar as detailed in the report by the clerk dated October 21st, 2025. Can I get a mover and a seconder?
Sorry, there is an amendment to that, and it goes on to read, and that section 2.4.6 of the town's procedural bylaw 104/2023 be amended to change the word Thursday to Wednesday and shall read council and committee of the whole agendas shall generally be made available by 4 p.m. on the Wednesday prior to the meeting.
Thank you, Diane. Can I get a mover and seconder of the amended motion? Moved by Councillor Comley, second by Deputy Mayor Tennant. All in favor? Opposed? See none, and that amended motion has carried. Thank you. And we are on to item 7, canteen request for proposal, communication 136109. And that'll be presented tonight by Joanne Henderson, Manager of Recreation and Culture. Joanne?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm here tonight. Council requested that staff look into leasing out the canteen to another party rather than being run by the municipality. And in order to accomplish this request, we would issue a request for proposal for canteen services. If this is something that we want to move forward with, we suggest that we issue this RFP in January of 2026 so that the operation could commence on July the 1st, 2026. I've listed a number of items that would be included in the RFP, and I'm happy to take questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Joanne. Is there any questions or discussions on this matter? Before I read the motion. Maybe the motion, it might have been changed before I got it here, but what I have in front of me. See none, I will read the suggested motion. The council authorize staff to proceed with issuing a request for proposal for canteen services as outlined in the report by the Manager of Recreation and Culture dated October 21st, 2025. Can I get a mover and seconder on that, please? Moved by Councillor Sakaspina, seconded by Mayor Randall. All in favor? Opposed? See none, and that motion has carried. Thank you, Joanne. And we are on to Community Enrichment Grant Program Funding Update, Communication 136110. Jessica Hanson, Community Development Coordinator. It's all yours, Jessica.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone. This train is rolling really nicely, so I'm going to try not to derail us. I'm going to keep this brief. I am here tonight to provide a funding update report for the Community Enrichment Program. As council knows, a budget is set every year. This year for the budget, it was set at $30,000. And staff have been working in support with the Service Delivery Review Working Group, which is a mouthful, by the way, not very kind. And they are recommending an annual increase of $17,000, making the available annual funding be $47,000 to assist with offsetting in-kind support of municipal facility rentals and revisions to the current program. So as I shared, the current budget is $30,000, and organizations can apply for grants of up to $1,500 to either through a cash or in-kind services or a mixture of both application. And staff recognized that with the proposed rate increases to municipal facilities, as well as the rising costs associated with presenting community programming, festivals, and events, some organizations are going to have a difficult time covering costs. In addition, the Recreation Service Delivery Working Group recommends charging the same hall rental rates for all parties, where community groups currently pay a reduced rate. The working group feels that rather than having multiple hall rental rates, support should be provided to these groups to help offset those rental rates as those rates increase. And so in essence, it's a grant anyways. We're providing in-kind support to help offset those fees. So naturally, this should be provided through the community enrichment program. And in doing so, that provides us with an opportunity to better track and have a better visual of the costs associated with providing this support to these groups. The working group, in addition to that, the working group directed staff to split the community enrichment budget into cash and in-kind grants and track them separately. So we went through the applications over the last 5 years and have determined $12,000 is kind of that sweet spot of where we're capping out on cash grants. So we're proposing going forward that $12,000 be set as the cash portion of the community enrichment program. So organizations can apply for that. Once that $12,000 is capped, that's it. And then applicants can still apply for in-kind applications of either facility rentals or staffing support for their events, but that cash portion would be depleted for the year. So the working group, so currently organizations are eligible to apply for $1,500, and we don't anticipate that will change. However, we're considering, we are suggesting recommending an addition to the community enrichment criteria. Think of it kind of as a third stream where organizations can apply for a subsidy for their rentals, provided that they are a not-for-profit group that are renting a hall at the arena, the canoe club, and the town hall. They will be eligible to apply for in-kind support that directly offsets the additional costs. So basically, they are going to pay no more than what they currently are, but on their permits, it will show the subsidy to make that amount whole. And that will again allow us a better opportunity to actually track what we are supporting these organizations with, and that fee is being completed, basically. So just as a recap, we are suggesting that the budget be set at $47,000 for next year, $12,000 for the cash portion of it, and then $35,000 for that in-kind support for facility rentals. And I am happy to take any questions. Diana's here as well. Joanna's still here, so we're happy to take any questions that you have.
Thanks, Jessica. Any questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Tennant.
Yeah, it was an interesting exercise. As Jessica mentions, we're trying to streamline this process a bit. We're trying to, on one hand, get more out of our facilities and rentals in the private sector. We're also trying to get more engagement, get more people renting them, but in a fair and equitable way. So one thing I should say is that we went over everybody, in the enrichment grant world in the last few years, and this should not affect anybody in any adverse way. This should be, everybody's made whole by this system. So it took a bit of work to figure that out. So no one should be affected in any way negatively. But hopefully, as these changes go forward, we see more rentals, which would be ideal. So thanks. That's it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Tennant. Any other questions or discussions on this matter? Before I read the motion, Councillor Kavanaugh.
Thank you. Just a quick question. Was there any discussion around how we currently do the application draws? Like, whether we're still going to do this, like the one open application first of the year, whatever's left over gets pulled to the second, or dividing them evenly? Because I know some groups, maybe have events that come up later in the year that pot is depleted. I just wondered if there was any discussion with the group about that.
Thank you, through the chair. We've had that conversation. I think for right now, we're going to keep it kind of status quo in terms of intakes, because that's what the majority of the applicants are used to. They know that it's in their best interest to apply at that first intake so that they have that answer come March, and that there will be a second intake in August. And part of that is education on our end. We just simply will do better at promoting the program and maybe perhaps actually sending out invitations to groups instead so that they're aware of that intake. There's only one instance that comes to mind where there was kind of that in-between gap that the applicant applied for something that was already taking place. But as a whole, at the moment, it seems to be working for 2 intakes. So we'll keep it as is for now.
Okay.
I think the other point around the intakes is that we're going to do a better job of keeping track of money and doing the reconciliation of if somebody applies for a certain amount and they're not necessarily using it, we're going to keep track of it better so that when we get to that second intake, we have a good idea of how much has not been utilized.
Any other questions or discussions on this matter before I read the motion? See none. I will read the motion. The council approved the 2026 Carleton Place Community Enrichment Program budget of $47,000, which would be distributed based on $12,000 for financial cash grants and $35,000 for in-kind grants. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Kavanaugh, seconded by Councillor Sekaspina. All in favor? Opposed? See none, and that motion is carried. Thank you. Thanks, Jessica. And our last report of the evening, lease payment to Physicians Corporation, Communication 136111, Diane Smithson, CAO.
So as everybody knows, a number of our physicians in town are getting older and they want to retire. And the new way of attracting physicians to a community is through health hubs. And it's very much a model that is being promoted by the province. And in fact, they are helping financially to help support these health hub models. When I first came to town as your CAO, the model that was in town was that physicians each sort of had their own physicians' offices. Sometimes they combined into one. But for new physicians coming into a community, they don't want to run the business of being a doctor. They want to be a physician. They want to help their clients. But that health hub and being part of a family health team takes over some of that administration work associated with running a practice. A lot of communities have decided that their way of helping physicians is to help doctors, new doctors, pay for their medical costs. And they're entering into contracts to attract doctors by saying, we'll help you with your medical bills. The way that Carleton Place has decided to approach helping physicians and a way of attracting new physicians to town is by helping to offset the rent from having our doctors being in their own practices, moving into the new health hub that is located on Costello Drive. And at the time, back in 2023, Council authorized entering into a municipal facilities capital agreement with a new doctors corporation. So our funding flows through the corporation. The corporation in turn pays the family health team for their assistance through administration, and then they pay their rent to the owner of the facility. At the time, we didn't know the full parameters of when the health hub was going to be up and running and when the doctors had to start paying their rent. So when we produced the lease agreement, we suggested that lease payments would be paid by the town, and we're making payments of $90,000 a year over 2 payments for a total of $900,000 over 10 years. At the end of the day, we're only making 20 payments. When we drafted the agreement, we didn't know when they were going to be able to move in, and so the timing hasn't worked out exactly well for the physicians who are here today. So they've moved into their practice. They had to start paying rent in July. But if you follow, letter by letter of the law of the agreement that we entered into, our first payment, in fact, would not be until before January 31st of 2026, because they didn't actually get occupancy until October. So I'm suggesting to you that, if we could go back and rewrite the agreement, we would have said, let's make the first payment immediately following occupancy. And I think the intent that we're trying to do is we're trying to help those physicians with their increased rent payments. A lot of those physicians previously had owned their own practice, weren't in fact paying rent to anybody, but they recognized the benefit of being part of a health team. And so I'm suggesting to you that at the end of the day, we only are making 20 payments. If we agree to make one payment this year, and we did budget $90,000 in 2025 in our budget, so we have the money, it's not like it's coming out of a reserve or year-end surplus, that we try to help the physicians because they have been making rental payments since July, even though they haven't been able to get in until October. And then we would in turn make our 2 payments next year and ongoing. And then in the last year of the contract, we would only make the 1 payment. So I'm suggesting, I think the real intent of this was to help the physicians. This is our best way of helping the physicians, is to make a payment this year. And I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you, Diane. So since there are 3 options on this, I will open it up for discussion or questions first for Diane. Mayor Randall.
Thank you. More of a comment than anything. Agree with kind of everything that Diane has said. We've already seen the benefit of this model. There have been 3 new doctors that have come into the fold knowing that this model was going to take place. And in conversations with Dr. Jamie Fullerton, who's kind of leading the doctors group, there's other irons in the fire to add to the group, and he is very he and all of the doctors are encouraged at the prospects of new doctors coming in, mainly at first to offset some doctors that probably should be retired or are retiring very soon. But the space is capable of holding an additional 5 on top of what they already have. And I think that as part of this group and this decision that we made prior, assisting the doctors in this way, and again, like Diane said, we're making 20 payments one way or the other. They're already in there. They've already taken on the burden of the rent payments to the landlord, and this would be just being a good partner to folks that are we're putting trust in each other in this endeavor. And I think that's a great way to move forward and assist them as we have been assisting.
Thank you, Mayor Randall. Any other questions or comments? I see none, so I'll read the recommended motion. The council authorize option 1 to make the initial lease payments to CBP Health Hub Solutions Corporation in the fall of 2025, as outlined in the report by the CAO dated October 21st, 2025. Can I get a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Mayor Randall, seconded by Councillor Kavanagh. All in favor? Opposed? See none, and that motion has passed. Thank you. And that is it for reports this evening. Thank you for everybody's input on that. And we are on to new and other business, which there is none. So we're quickly moving along to committee, board, and external organization updates. I will read the suggested motion that the following minutes be received. Library Board, September 17th, 2025. Lanark County OPP Detachment Board, September 17th, 2025. Environmental Advisory Committee, October 6th, 2025. Can I get a mover and seconder on those? Moved by Councillor Comley, seconded by Councillor Kavanagh. Is there any discussions or comments on this? See none. All in favor? Opposed? And that motion has carried. Thank you. Information listings from the town of Englehart, certification requirements for firefighters, September 24th, 2025. The suggested motion is that the information listed dated October 21st, 2025 be received. Get a motion. Can I get a mover and seconder on that, please? Moved by Councillor Sekaspina, seconded by Councillor Atkinson. Is there any discussions on the? See none. All in favor? Opposed? See none, and that motion has passed. We will be going into closed session at this time for two matters. I don't have the update. So I will have Diane Smithson read the suggested motion, please, on the closed session.
That committee move into closed session at 7:45 PM to discuss matters subject to the Municipal Act, Section 239, subbracket 2, for the reasons of C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board for items 1 and 2, and E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, which is item 1, and that the following persons be permitted to participate in the meeting: Diane Smithson, CAO, all items; Stacy Blair, clerk, all items; Nikki Dwyer, Director of Development Services, item 1 only. Oh, I.
Yep.
Oh, that's mine.
Thanks, Diane. For some reason, I don't have permission to enter what the motion was. So thank you for reading that out. Can I get a mover and seconder of that, please? Moved by Councillor Atkinson, seconded by Mayor Randall. All in favor? Opposed? See none, and we will be moving into closed session. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. I will ask Diane Smithson to provide us with the Rise and Report, please.
For both items discussed in closed session, staff direction was provided.
Thank you. And it's adjournment time. The suggested motion is that the meeting be adjourned at 8:11. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Sekaspina, seconded by Mayor Randall. I've never seen such a slow second on an adjournment. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much. Have a great evening, everybody.